And now for the moment many people have been waiting for. Caitlin Clark has dropped her.
As if falling viewership wasn't enough, the union conflict adds another layer of chaos to an already unstable situation. While ratings decline, while investors likely question their commitments, while the league's future hangs in the balance, internal battles over revenue splits dominate the narrative. It's like arguing over furniture placement while the ship is actively sinking. The lack of situational awareness is staggering. When a league struggles to attract viewers, when audiences actively choose anything else over your product, the priority should be growth, not division. Yet here we are, watching ultimatums fly while the financial base shrinks. And throughout it all, Caitlin Clark's absence looms larger with every passing week. Not because she's being glorified unfairly, but because her presence or lack of it reveals an uncomfortable truth. One athlete has become so central to attention that without her, everything else feels exposed. That doesn't diminish the talent of others. It condemns the structure that failed to create alternatives. A league that cannot sustain interest without one individual is not a league. It's a fragile performance propped up by hope. Union bargaining only works when players hold real leverage. Leverage comes from value, and value comes from viewers. Without viewers, demands lose power. The timing makes this entire situation almost unbelievable. Unrivaled positioned itself as the ultimate solution. Better pay, better structure, better execution, proof that women's basketball could flourish if done correctly. Instead, it's becoming a case study in why this space remains so difficult. The interest isn't there. The fan base isn't there. The revenue isn't there. And no amount of venture capital can rewrite that reality. Yet players involved in the union dispute appear convinced they hold more power than they do. It's a dangerous illusion. Here's the hard truth. The league doesn't need individual players the way they think it does. What it needs is attention, viewers, cultural pull, someone who moves numbers, someone who fills seats, someone like Caitlin Clark. She reviewed the offer. She weighed her options, and she said no. That single decision tells you everything. When the biggest attraction in women's basketball declines, the problem isn't scheduling or contracts. The problem is appeal, and that's the reality Unrivaled is now forced to face.
I think it's very creative for Caitlin Clark to come up with something like this. And I just enjoy all of it. It's like aura.
We love it! It's simple, yet it speaks a lot.
I love it so much.
I'm a big fan of it. Simplicity is the best. I like the design. Nike always does great with design, so I'm a huge fan of the logo.
It looks really cool. I was really excited to see it last night, and it looks like we're going to get shirts with it on it, so that's pretty exciting too.
I like it. I like how it incorporates the CC.
I love it. Double C's.
The reaction was immediate and brutally loud. The moment Nike revealed Caitlin Clark's new logo, timelines ignited, comment sections exploded, and the usual chorus of critics rushed in with sharpened knives. Some praised it instantly, calling it clean, powerful, and inevitable. Others dismissed it as recycled, boring, or derivative, insisting they had seen it before. But buried underneath all the noise was a far more important truth that had nothing to do with personal taste. This logo was not about aesthetics alone. It was about power, positioning, and permanence. And whether people loved it or hated it, the fact that everyone was talking about it proved Nike's point before the debate even began. At first glance, the logo is deceptively simple. Two overlapping CS, with a smaller C embedded inside, sharp lines, clear symmetry, and no unnecessary detail. That simplicity is not an accident. It is intentional. A logo is not supposed to win a design award in isolation. It is supposed to survive every possible environment it will ever exist in. It needs to be recognizable from the nosebleeds of an arena, on a phone screen, stitched onto fabric, embossed on leather, printed on tags, and reduced to the size of a thumbnail without losing its identity. In half a second, this logo reads CC. That is the entire job. And it passes that test effortlessly. The jokes came fast, as they always do. People compared it to a 1950s airline emblem, a luxury credit card, a fashion house logo, even vintage travel posters. But here's the irony those jokes accidentally reveal. If critics can instantly list 5 things the logo reminds them of, then the logo has already succeeded. The worst possible logo is one nobody notices. This one demanded attention. It forced reactions. It stayed in people's heads. Memorability beats originality every single time in branding, and Nike knows that better than anyone on the planet. Then there is the context, which matters more than the design itself. This is not a random collaboration or a temporary campaign. Nike did not try something out. They embedded Caitlin Clark's initials into their global brand architecture as she enters only her second year as a professional. You do not get that treatment by accident. You earn it by moving product, driving conversation, and pulling audiences with gravitational force. Style debates can rage endlessly, but sales numbers do not lie, and Nike does not operate on feelings. They operate on math. Ask the simplest question possible. Would people wear it? Hats, hoodies, shirts, shoes? The answer clearly is yes. Pre-orders confirmed it immediately. Merchandise windows filled. People rushed in. Stock disappeared. Some fans were frustrated they could not get what they wanted fast enough. But even that frustration is evidence of demand. This is the major leagues. Nike's playbook has never changed. Hype first, scarcity second, supply later. They do not flood the market on day one. They let desire do the work for them. The rollout itself was controlled and deliberate. A short promotional video, select merchandise drops, clean presentation, no over-explaining, no justification. Nike does not ask permission. They make a statement and let the world argue underneath it. And the world did exactly that. Because this logo is not just about fashion or design. It is about hierarchy. Signature branding is not the same thing as appearing on a team poster. This is legacy territory. This is the kind of mark that only exists if the brand expects it to still be relevant years from now. That is where much of the anger actually comes from. Not the lines, not the shape, not the font. It is the reality that Caitlin Clark commands attention at a level that makes people uncomfortable. Some fans struggle with the idea that a second-year professional dominates the conversation like a decade-long veteran. They label it overexposure. They call it rushed. They accuse the media and sponsors of forcing the moment. But Nike does not force moments that cannot sustain themselves. When Clark plays, ratings rise. When Clark trends, social media surges. When her name appears on merchandise, it moves. This is not opinion. This is data. Brands do not reward potential alone. They reward momentum that converts. And Clark's momentum is not hypothetical. It is measurable. Television viewership spikes. Arena interest increases. Merchandise demand follows. That is the entire equation. Nike's decision is not emotional. It is strategic. They see a long runway, not a short-term pop. There's also a reason the logo looks the way it does. The marks that survive decades are rarely complicated. They are easy to print, easy to recognize, and easy to apply anywhere. Billboard, socks, sleeves, backpacks, shoes. CC works everywhere without explanation. No storytelling required. No footnotes. No captions. That is how enduring athletic branding functions. Look at history. The symbols that lasted were simple, flexible, and instantly readable. Everything else faded. What we are witnessing right now is the hottest phase of any major branding moment. The backlash stage, the moment when success becomes undeniable and resistance turns loud. That anger is not about design flaws. It is about attention. Caitlin Clark controls the eyes. And in sports, attention is currency. When one player becomes the focal point, others feel displaced. That discomfort turns into criticism disguised as concern for the game, the league, or balance. But Nike is not interested in balancing narratives. They are interested in backing what works. This logo is not a conclusion. It is a beginning. It signals intent. It says Nike expects Caitlin Clark to be a fixture, not a flash. To exist on shelves, in arenas, and in culture for a long time. Whether people love the design or hate it is irrelevant. They noticed it. They discussed it. They shared it. That is the win. Strength does not ask for approval. It announces itself and lets the reaction follow. This logo does exactly that. And if history is any guide, the louder the outrage at the start, the more permanent the mark usually becomes.
Where Nike has been with any Caitlin Clark merchandise whatsoever, but developing a signature logo and a signature shoe does take time. So without further ado, here is Caitlin Clark's official.
Strip away the noise and ask a simple question. Would you wear it? Would you put that logo on a hat, a hoodie, or a shirt? Opinions will vary, and that's fine. Style debates never end. But here's the reality that matters far more than taste. The largest sports brand on the planet just elevated Caitlin Clark's initials into signature status. That doesn't happen by accident. Nike does not gamble on sentiment. They don't move on emotion. They move on data, sales projections, market behavior, audience pull. If Nike puts your initials front and center as you enter just your second professional season, it's because the numbers demand it. Millions of fans are already watching. Millions more are ready to buy. You don't earn this kind of branding by potential alone. You earn it by converting attention into action. Caitlin Clark does that better than almost anyone in the sport right now. Jerseys move. Merchandise moves. Conversations move. That's the difference between popularity and market gravity. People can argue endlessly about aesthetics. That argument never affects the bottom line. Sales and debates. Revenue closes discussions. Nike understands something very clearly. When Clark's name appears on a product, it doesn't sit on shelves. It moves. That's the only metric that truly matters. This logo isn't about trendiness. It's about recognition. It's about signaling to consumers that this name belongs among the elite tier of athletic branding. Whether critics like it or not is irrelevant. The brand has already made its decision, and it made it based on math, not mood.
Radio live on WNIK, and as usual, we're talking about Caitlin Clark.
From a branding standpoint, the logo does exactly what it's supposed to do. A small C nested within two overlapping CS, clean geometry, strong balance, instantly readable. That matters more than any long-form critique. A logo must work in real-world conditions, not just on a design blog. It needs to be visible from the upper deck on a broadcast. It needs to register on a phone screen. It needs to hold its shape on a shoe tongue, a sleeve, or a fabric tag. This logo does that. In half a second, it reads, "CC, that's success." The jokes came fast, as they always do. Some saw vintage airline branding. Others joked about credit card companies or luxury fashion houses. That reaction is actually a positive signal. If even detractors can instantly list associations, the logo has already done its job. It's stuck. The worst fate for a logo is invisibility. This one is anything but invisible. Invites reaction, invites conversation, and conversation drives awareness. Awareness drives demand. Memorability beats originality in commercial branding every time. Nike knows this. They weren't chasing novelty. They were building recognition, and recognition scales. Nike didn't over-explain. They never do. The logo arrived alongside a short promotional film and limited merchandise drops. Pre-orders surged. Fans rushed in, some secured items. Others were left watching inventory disappear. That wasn't a failure. That was intentional scarcity. This is the Nike playbook. Hype first, stock later. Create urgency. Let demand reveal itself publicly. The response was immediate and clear. People want more. More colors, more sizes, more product. Actual signature shoes. That's not disappointment. That's validation. That's what real demand looks like. This is how major brands operate. Welcome to the top tier. This phase is emotional. It's heated, and it's predictable. Some people are angry because Caitlin Clark commands attention like a decade-long veteran despite being early in her career. That discomfort fuels claims of overhype or favoritism. Nike doesn't care about those emotions. They care about outcomes. When Clark plays, ratings rise. When she trends, social media explodes. When her name appears on merchandise, it sells. That's the equation. Signature branding is status. It's not handed out lightly. It signals long-term belief. Simplicity is the key to longevity, and this mark has it. CC works everywhere: billboards, socks, backpack, sleeves. It needs no explanation. That's why it matters, and that's why it's here to stay. The reaction was immediate, loud, and emotional. The moment Nike revealed Caitlin Clark's new logo, timelines erupted. Critics rushed in, comment sections caught fire, and the usual chorus of online outrage followed right on cue. Some people praised the design for its clarity and confidence. Others rushed to declare it unoriginal, derivative, or overly familiar. The noise was predictable. What wasn't predictable was how revealing that reaction truly was. At its core, this backlash has nothing to do with design theory. It has everything to do with influence. Caitlin Clark has reached a level where even a logo announcement becomes a cultural event. That doesn't happen accidentally. That happens when an athlete commands attention at a scale few can reach. The anger, the comparisons, the think pieces, all of it signals relevance. Nobody wastes energy criticizing something that doesn't matter. The logo itself is clean and deliberate. Too sharp, overlapping CS, strong symmetry, minimal distractions, no unnecessary flerisches. That simplicity is exactly the point. Strength doesn't need decoration. Nike understands this better than anyone. They didn't aim to please everyone. They aimed to establish permanence. And permanence always makes people uncomfortable. There's a reason timelines melted down. Caitlin Clark is no longer just an athlete. She's becoming a brand anchor. When a player crosses that threshold, scrutiny intensifies. Every move is analyzed, exaggerated, and politicized. That's the cost of real influence. The criticism isn't a warning sign, it's confirmation. What matters most is not whether every fan loves the logo. What matters is that it immediately registers. You see it once and you remember it. That's power. And power compounds. This moment isn't a peak, it's a foundation. From here, the branding only grows stronger, sharper, and more entrenched.